What time do you guys wake up at in the morning?
I wake up at 5, 6, 7 or 8.
I wake up about 11 or 12.
I wake up at about 8 and then I listen to East Leeds Community Radio.
So, good evening and welcome to Chapel FM Arts Centre up in Studio 3, our live radio theatre. We're going out on air to the world on Chapel FM. We're also live streamed on YouTube. We've got an evening tonight of Czech and Scottish poetry. We'll find out about the links between these lovely people, how they met and how they come to be here tonight. Just to say that Chapel FM, we work locally, we work across the city, and we work internationally. So we've got very strong links with poets in Dortmund in Germany, our twin city there. We've got fantastic musical links with Lille, our twin city in France. We've got 20 musicians coming over from Tier Lane. That's an organisation in Lille in October to be with us and to make music. But also, we have now some connections with Brno. Andre organises a fantastic festival in Ostrava called Inverse. We'll be hearing about that. And we really want to make more connections between our poetry communities here in Leeds and with Moravia, with the Czech Republic, and with Budovice as well, of course, because it doesn't have to be just Brno. So, let's introduce our guests first of all. They're going to be reading, we're going to be talking, we're going to be chatting about their writing, but also, broadly speaking, about the culture of poetry in the Czech Republic. We've got Andre Hrabal. A round of applause, please.
Thank you.
We've got Shimon Leitgeb.
Good evening to everybody.
And somebody who's much easier for me to pronounce, Colin Maguire. So first of all, we're going to be hearing from Colin, and then we're going to be moving on to our Czech poets. So, Colin, it's really lovely to have you here. And have you been to Leeds before?
No, this is my first time. Can you believe it? Yeah. So,
what do you think? What do you think of it so far?
I think it's lovely so far. Yeah, it's great. It's the first time here. It's a sort of spontaneous, just arrived, but it's lovely. It's a beautiful city.
Have you? Anybody got Scottish connections? Helen, Scots.
I've got a son who's sort of honorary Scot who lives in Glasgow.
Ah, nice.
There you go.
There's also, I spoke to a man at the start.
He lived in Glasgow for a couple of years. Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, we'll ask about Czech connections too in a bit. But first of all, Colin, how did you come to meet these lovely gentlemen here?
Yes, well, I met Simone in Edinburgh, in Leith. Don't tell anyone, in Glasgow. And it was at a Leith Theatre. We were performing there. I was performing there. He saw me and was like, we should get together and do a little tour in 2019. Then it was like, absolutely. Then the pandemic hit and all hell broke loose. And we managed to pull it back like in 2024. I ended up going to Czech Republic, but we can maybe come to that.
We will come to that, and I've neglected to read your biography, which I'm going to do now. Colin Maguire is a Glaswegian poet living in Edinburgh, won the Outspoken Prize for Best Poem and Film for the Glasgow Boys in 2018. An excerpt from his memoir. You haven't spoken about your memoir yet. Be interested in that.
That's true. Memoir sounds grand, more like narrative non-fiction.
That sounds grander to me.
I know, actually, yeah, that's true.
In the Scottish queer anthology Fierce Salvage, his new collection Ultraviolet is out with Bad Betty Press in 2026. Copies are downstairs.
Yes, there are copies. I will read a bit from that as well.
He facilitates workshops in prisons, libraries, schools and community settings as part of the live literature programme with the Scottish Book Trust and Open Book Charity. So another big round of applause, please, for Colin.
How are you? Nice to be here, really. Let me read a wee poem from a magazine called Guava, from a young woman, Cuban-American, actually, who lived in America, now is in Seville, Guava. And this is in love, like, with names and names. But we've got a kind of international theme. This is an Italian name, Niccolo. And I knew someone called Niccolo Piccolo. And, you know, there's just a lovely rhythm and alliteration and maybe even a bit of assonance going on there. And I just wanted to play with this name like a charm, like an incantation. So let's start with a little incantation for Niccolo Piccolo. Also, the letters of Niccolo, if you rearrange them, you can get Colin. So there's a wee hint of that in there. Here we go. Charm for Niccolo. Your torso is taut and smooth, Niccolo. Let's go to the island of Niccolo and bathe in the lagoon of your abdomen. Why do your trousers hang so low, Niccolo? Your buttocks are incredible footballs, Niccolo. May I squeeze them, Niccolo? Your gift to me, Niccolo. An Italian Niccolo, not a dry Nicholas, like Saint Nicholas. Oh, Niccolo, my Santa Claus, I nick my finger on the knife of your name, Niccolo. You suck my blood, I become Niccolo, my Niccolo blood, my Niccolo piccolo pene, molto grande pene. All portraits are of Niccolo bending over, reaching at the sun. Every chorus singing Niccolo, chanting Niccolo or Niccolo. Niccolo at the center of the world, transforming Niccolo to Niccolino, 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 finding myself in your name, Niccolo. The language of Niccolo always spoken softly. A book filled with your name, Niccolo. The holy book of Niccolo, the heart of 3 syllables. Niccolo. So low I lie down. Yeah, a wee incantation there, the hypnotic of the low knownness. I'll read from Ultraviolet, the book that's out on the 30th of July from Bad Betty Press's Little Betty. And this is a bit of a different theme from Italian names. It's about mortality, family, illness, and lots of cheery things like that. I'll read one that's kind of focused on childhood, brotherhood, childhood friendships. Let's start with one called Rifle. I knocked a coal from the fire, scorching your parents' rug. We prayed before a picture of Christ. They would still let me sleep over. The next day, your dad carved a wooden rifle with his jigsaw. Its solid body, snug trigger, good enough to kill. The boys wrangled over Uzis, pump action, pistols, while I climbed trees in fatigues, ready for sniping, climbing down to chase whoever got away. I shot you in the neck, my enemy shouts, and I sprint past, and our guns kiss, knocking my rifle from my hands. He presses his gun to my temple. Gay, he says, instead of bang, and I come back alive. Yeah. I know. Clapping is an interesting one, isn't it? It's nice because it creates a kind of a wee interlude, and that's okay. So if you feel, yeah, that's true. Clap whenever you feel necessary. So that's like friends hanging out and playing with guns, playing at armies. Did you ever do that? Yes, no, well. But then from one play to another play with brothers, and of course this is actually centered around the death of my brother, and this one is called WrestleMania. WrestleMania. You are the ultimate warrior, and I am the Undertaker, thudding like boulders above the living room while Mum and Dad watch Casualty. I tried to pick you up. You squashed me with a stone-cold stunner. I tried to carry you, but you have me flat on the floor. I hit back with a brainbuster, and you play dead. And I mock slap your face to wake you up, and you are alive again, squeezing my throat until I can't breathe. I'm taking you with me, you say, throwing me over your shoulder like a corpse. And, you know, sometimes after terrible things, you can do a bit of meditation, you know, to deal with life, difficulties, what the Buddhists call suffering, but also just life, isn't it? But often it's inadequate, it's not enough. And then mindfulness, you kind of grow a bit disillusioned with it. And this poem is about that a bit. It's called Mick-mindfulness. Mick-mindfulness. I would like to complain about the fetishizing of the present moment by mindfulness teachers, as though this present moment were not a hearse hurtling towards a joke shop, as though meaning could be squeezed out of the coronary artery, as though I could wring the present moment like a wet towel between my hands and release the moisture trapped and say, here is the hidden element, this corroding clock, this sheet of time between sleep. Next up, Book of Dermis, which, you know, my brother got melanoma, and that became a central theme. In fact, ultraviolet is perhaps that invisible light that may have an impact. And yeah, I was like, the skin is like a book, the skin is a page. Yeah, and we can read our skin in the same way we can read a book. Book of Dermis. I want my moles read by a fortune teller, my shoulder of beef weighed on a butcher's scale. What are these congregations of freckles singing? The future at my elbow, the meaning of my legs, what the flesh reports in a code I cannot read. My book of dermis, thin as paper, a shield of cells and melanin. I want my skin read the way my brother should have been read. A mole is a landmine, a submarine hatch with the enemy inside, a heat spot on the surface of the sun, target practice for ultraviolet light, weapon no larger than a full stop, scratch pad, bleeding braille, poisoned dot, bitter chocolate chip. Couple more from this, then we'll segue into some Czech translation. This poem, in a way, sums up the entire backstory of my brother Craig. This is called The Boys. I want our toys to fight in a catastrophe. You want your cars in a perfect line, and I throw dinosaurs across the floor, and your cars are in a traffic jam in a city besieged by monsters. You draw a precise planet, lined and squared, and I scribble bright colors over the page. You iron your shirts and measure dimensions of new offices, inspect the integrity of buildings, and I riot like a scarecrow brought to life on weed and booze. And I should not be in the golf club bar wearing a hat, t-shirt, and tartan trousers. You lower your handicap in a Remus Warmo shirt, strolling 18 holes in the sun with the lads. You eye a bleeding mole on your back in the mirror in Spain, and I dive in the deep end to catch a tennis ball and swallow chlorinated water. You marry Laura at Malchesne Castle, Lago di Garda. I date a Czech drag queen, cringe at wedding dresses in the window. You clean your hubcaps with a toothbrush. I meditate to gather a head full of broken bottles. I email x-rays to specialists in New Zealand. You eat Caesar salad before getting rushed away by ambulance. I sit on the bus daydreaming out the window. You hold your head alone in a room in your head alone. I ask, on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad is the pain? 5 being the worst. You take out screwdrivers to repair the fuse box in the cellar. I write this in a room filled with light, and you decompose. I tell Georgia about you as we gut the garage. You become a collage of photographs at the foot of the stair, and I cry out to the earth to contact you. You remain silent, a child hiding long after the game is over. And maybe the last one from this, and then if time-wise. Yeah, I'm high on neuroticism. You know. There are 5 traits, apparently, of human personality that are called ocean. And the 5 traits are ocean. You've got openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And each person might find themselves high and low on the scale of each. Let's just say I'm high on neuroticism. Or maybe it's not me. High on neuroticism. Maybe I've touched a lamppost inappropriately. It's public pole openness. I'm sexually attracted to clothes horses and flirt by hanging my boxers on them. I've harmed ants on the street, killing their children underfoot. I've groomed a spaniel to lick my face and allow me to pick up his poo. I've rolled joints from pages in the Bible, lay awake in a catechism of sexual confusion. I've drunk mushroom tea, hallucinating glow-in-the-dark skeleton bros. All the time wishing I was on the spectrum, with a house diagnosed, freebasing crystal grief, high on a personality disorder, person-centered, psychodynamic, CBT, equine-assisted, sound bath, hypno, touch healing. I'll try anything. Let me see my fractures glitter. Inject tiny mirrors into my eyes. I think that we could go into the section. Yeah. So now we have 2 poems that I have written that have been translated into Czech to Shimon's friend Silva Ficová. Yeah, lovely. So I will read it in English, and then you can read one in Czech. Is that yeah? Yeah, let's do that. So we'll. Same Silva that we were talking about before. I think yeah. So will we start with Velikani? Yeah. So this is from this book, and I'll give you the page. This is from a Czech literary magazine, Dvar.
Which means?
Shape, which is known in like central Prague or across Prague, yeah. So yeah, good Czech magazine. So let's read it. I'll give you the page off.
Thank you.
Are you reading the English first?
Yeah. We'll read the English first. Will I sit down and read it? Or
read it.
Standing?
Yeah.
It was called Zvrlikani, which I'm kind of mispronouncing, which means like bird song or, yeah. But I changed it before, called Communication Styles for Brothers. I'll read it in English. Shimoni will read it in Czech. Communication Styles for Brothers, or bird song. You'd come in the front door and whistle. I'd be upstairs and whistle back, like a pair of tits sounding a return to the nest. Our intuitive call and response, a sudden shared slapstick, rousing the dog from its daydream, like two trainee referees who'd just passed their exams, our shrill, crisp shrieks startling the air. Hello, fool. Hi, idiot. Not even that. That's simply, I exist. I exist too.
Should I go there or wherever you like? Okay. I'll just sit. Cvrlikání. Vejdeš do domovních dveří a hvízneš. Já jsem nahoře a hvíznu na tebe, jak dvě síkorky, co hlásí návrat do hnízda. Ze spontánního signálu a odpovědi je rázem groteska, co probudí psa z denního snění. Jako dva rozhodčí v zácviku, co právě složili zkoušky, ostrým, rázným písknutím vyplašíme vzduch. Ahoj, vole! Čau, idiote! Ani to ne, prostě existuju. Já taky.
And then the last one we'll finish with, and then we'll get on to Shimon and Andrzej and deep dive into Czech, is called The Fascist Guide to Salad. I satirically deconstruct the salad. Bear in mind it is satire, and then you'll read it. Fascist Guide to Salad. We exclude peppers of all colours. No red onions. Bolshevik tearjerkers, every last one. No sweet corn caught in the teeth like prisoners of war and barbed wire. We exclude all potatoes, inferior forms of base origin, though they weather all winter. In their pallid form, they are such sluggish, lumping proletarian. No environmentally green lettuce, like sheets of bland paper in the mouth. No French dressing drooling in effeminacy. No drizzle of olive oil from Italian peasant fields. No free-range eggs. Only the finest yolk from the purest-born eagle. No Greek affectation, fetid cheese. No Caesar salad stabbed in the back with his own cutlery. No mezzy platter selection sneaking through the plate's border. Do you hear them sing? Do you hear the people sing? The tomatoes will prevail. The tomatoes will prevail. No, the tomatoes bleed like liberals all the same. Blood dripping from their tongues. This salad will be the finest, made only to be acknowledged, prized only for its privilege, a museum exhibit around which people gawp. Behold the cold white porcelain bowl, empty and gleaming.
It's being recorded, right? Then someone takes this out of context, me reading this. Fašistický průvodce salátem. Vyřadíme papriky všech barev. Žádné červené cibule, bolševiky, co tě rozpláčou. Žádná kukuřice, co uvízne v zubech, jak zajatci na ostnatém drátu. Vyřadíme brambory, podřadné formy nízkého původu. Blednou sice celou zimu, ale synalé připomínají líné lumpen proletáře. Žádný biolistový salát podobný archům papíru bez chuti. Žádný francouzský dressing se zženštilými slinty. Žádné kapky olivového oleje z italských hrolnických polí. Žádná vejce z volného výběhu, jenom ten nejjemnější žloutek od nejušlechtilejšího orla. Žádná řecká póza, smrdutý sýr, žádný salát Cezar bodnutý dozad vlastním příborem, žádný talíř meze, co se sem vplížil přes hranice. Slyšíte je zpívat? Rajčata zvítězí. Rajčata zvítězí. Ne, rajčata krvácejí úplně jak liberálové. Z jazyků jim kape krev. Tohle bude ten nejlepší salát. Smíchaný jen, aby získal uznání, cenu už za svoje privilegium, muzejní exponát, na který se zírá. Hleďme na tu studenou, bílou, prázdnou a zářivou porcelánovou mísu. That's it.
Another round of applause, please, for Colin Maguire. And Colin's book, Ultraviolet, is downstairs. So afterwards, there'll be tea and coffee if you want to chat more, but also if you want to buy a few books, it will be there. And the poets will sign, no doubt. You were very rude about mindfulness, but there is a bit of that's part of your life.
There's a bit of irony there, yeah, because I've studied mindfulness and I practice mindfulness, but you know, that doesn't mean it's not a sacred cow that can be smashed.
You certainly killed that sacred cow. You shot it through the head. Thank you very much. Well, we're going to have a quick chat now with Andre and with Shimon, because I think context is important, really, and I think it's, you know, they've come all the way from the Czech Republic, and it'd be lovely to hear a little about the poetry that they come from, the poetry world that they both come from. But first of all, I just want to say one thing. It's a nice little sort of incidence of connection, because Silva Fischerova is a poet, a very famous poet in the Czech Republic, who, as a young poet, came to and read a festival of Czech writing called Okna that I organised in Manchester in 1988. So I met her like 40 years ago. So there's a nice little connection there, and that's how I became very interested in Czech writing, Czech literature, right back from that time when I first started reading poets like Miroslav Holub, but also novelists like Milan Kundera. So I've always been a bit obsessed by Czech writing, and it's that interest has been dormant for a while, but has really been rekindled from meeting Andre coming over to Ostrava last year. Perhaps, Andre, first of all, if you could just talk about how you became connected with Chapel FM, maybe.
Right. So, hello everyone. Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you, Peter and Tony and everyone from Chapel FM. I live in Brno, which is the second largest city in the Czech Republic. It's in the east, in Moravia, and it's a twin city of Leeds, right? So at a certain point, someone from the, I don't know, probably the city hall reached out to me that their partner in Leeds was doing a radio literary festival, which is something I've never heard of, but I find it pretty cool. And they wanted to have international guests, so they reached out to their twin cities, and then I read a couple of poems and had an interview with Tony from Chapel FM about Czech poetry and specifically Czech literature and specifically Czech poetry. And then Tony just in some email he said, actually we have a guy who loves Czech literature. He even organized a festival of Czech literature in 1980s. He wrote a book about Czech history, and Miroslav Holub slept at his house. And I was like, okay, can you just get me in contact with this person? Who is this? You know. So that's how I was introduced to Peter, and then later on, because Peter is also a poet, I invited him to a festival that I organized in Ostrava, in Verze, and we met there last September. That's it.
And it is true, Miroslav Holub did sleep at my house in Manchester in 1988. One of my heroes. There he was. Having breakfast. In fact, he left a piece of toast that he didn't eat, which we kept for about 3 months until it was mouldy. But first of all, Andre, thank you for explaining that. But tell us a little about Inverse Festival, which is a wonderful festival in Ostrava that I was very, very happy to read at and talk at last year. It's beautiful.
Right. So Ostrava is another large city in the Czech Republic. It's very industrial. There was a lot of coal mining, and it also, I would say, has this reputation of being a very, very industrial city. And back, like, I don't know, a couple of decades ago, when there was an invasion right? Like the meteorological phenomenon where the pressure changes. So all of the smog would go down to the streets, and there are stories of people walking through the city in a white shirt and it becoming black before they like walk for a couple of minutes, right? But of course, the younger generation of people living in Ostrava, they want to change the narrative. Not that they want to decline the coal mining past, but they just want to show, okay, but we're much more than that now, right? There's a lot of people who love culture and who are doing a lot of interesting things. So Inversion, or like our festival, is just one of these activities, right? So because I had been organizing literary events on a certain scale before, so they asked me to join it, even though I'm not from Ostrava. And yeah, that's it. We wanted to attract younger audiences. This was one of our goals, because back then in Ostrava there were literary events, but I would say quite like traditional. We wanted to show literature in a fresh, you know, like, yeah, in like a new light, that it can be interesting for younger audiences, it can be fun, that a literary festival can be, you know, enriching intellectually, but at the same time entertaining. So we combine it with concerts and different other things, and it seems to be working quite well.
It's a really good thing, and it's at where I was reading, where it took place that night, was in a place very like the Hyde Park Book Club, if you know that, in Leeds, so it's a pub, it's a bar with a fantastic room. There were about, I would say, 40 or 50 people, mostly under 30, in the audience when I was reading and you were interviewing me. And it is a very, very vibrant young scene there, and paying to come to this literature festival. And as you were saying, they paid perhaps more than they might pay normally.
Yeah. So this is quite uncommon. Of course, everything is like literature is publicly funded in the Czech Republic, also our festival to some extent. But yeah, we just charge for the festival. It's a bit uncommon, but I think we're like proving a point that people are willing to pay for literature, even though there's a lot of people who don't think that. So yeah, we're very happy for that.
Fantastic, Andre. Well, yeah, maybe we should just come to you first and you read. Oh no, it's Simon first. So let's carry on this conversation. Tell us a bit about the tour that you've been on, first of all, for the last few weeks. Maybe Simon, tell us how you know Andre as well.
Okay, so hello everybody. Well, I met Andre like 2018, 19. And so I'm organizing also literature events in České Budějovice, Budweis, and it's every 2 months. And Ondřej was performing at one of them with one Polish performer, and since then we became friends, and we have the same publisher, Jan Těsnohlídek, and we had a few tours together in Czech Republic. And well, during one of our one of our reading, we were just chilling and freestyling in his garden in Brno, and we just decided to have a tour in UK and Ireland, and in the morning we were just laughing to that, but when I said goodbye and we looked at each other, we knew it's not just a dream, and we will actually try to organize it. So, and we did. After 2 years, we organized the whole tour, and my first stop was in Wales. I had 2 readings there, and then Ondřej joined me in London. He had a gig before in Czech Republic, so we started to perform together in London. Then we had Dublin. Then we visited Edinburgh, Newcastle, and today we're here. Thank you, Peter.
It's really lovely to have you here. And Simon, you're going to be reading in a moment. But Colin, how long have you been on the tour, in the tour bus?
Yeah, so I joined them in London.
Yes.
And then I didn't go to Dublin. I would love to, but unfortunately I had.
Have you had a nice time?
Yeah.
Andre?
Great. Yeah, like basically everywhere we went, we had a very nice evening. People attended the events, and it's been lovely. So we got to explore the cities a bit, meet people, make some connections. We met some people that we will definitely invite back to our festivals in the Czech Republic. So this was great. We met some publishers, event organizers. So far, yeah, it's been great.
Yes.
You've enjoyed it?
Absolutely.
You had to say that, really, didn't you?
Yes.
Right, let's hear some poetry from you, Shimon. So if you'd like to, well, I'll read out, before, as you get to the microphone, I will read out the biog. Go on, Shimon, if you'd like to go up there, and then we will welcome him in a minute. I've read Colin's, so I will read everybody's. Shimon Lightgeb is a poet, member of the Czech section of the Pen Club and Writers Association. Grew up in Malonty, a Czech village, and I'm not going to pronounce that. Novo, where did you grow up?
Novohradské hory, Novohradské mountains, small village. But maybe you can use this bio here. It's shorter.
2 pages of it here. Right. Czech poet, laureate of the prestigious Czech Jill Orton Award. Poems have been translated into 9 languages and presented across Europe and Asia. Organizes literary events throughout the Czech Republic and is the founder of the international literature and music series Mejinama.
Yes, Between Us.
And the annual international multi-genre festival. I'm not going to try that either.
Literatura žije, literature lives.
Great. I'll take your word for that. He leads a creative writing seminar at a grammar school, teaches private courses. There's more, but I think it's more important to hear the poetry. So big round of applause please for Shimon Lightgeb.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm going to read you something from my second poetry collection called Cement Beach. It was translated by Bob Hisek. It's our friend from Ostrava, actually Olomouc, sorry. Andrzej introduced me to him, so thank you. And the book is about it's about the boy who is trying to kind of find his identity. You know, that season in your life you're nor a kid, nor an adult. It takes like 2 years, but of course it's individual. So it's about growing up. Moon at Day. That's the name of the first chapter and also the first poem. Once a year we go to a place where we sleep under a pipe through which a magic wind rushes. There's a hole in that pipe. My uncle carved a pack which fits it perfect. We use the wind to blow up balloons and we fire flaming arrows at them. We hit the balloons and they burn. Night looks like day and the moon is drowning between golden clouds. Okay, I will read this one first in Czech, so you hear our beautiful language. Měsíční vandráci. Strejda říká, že jsme si zbyli sami, tak bychom se jako samotní lidé měli chovat. Strejda je můj nejlepší kámoš. Kejvám hlavou a říkám, že jsme na tu samotu 2. Lidi nám říkají vandráci. Strejda říká, že vandrák je člověk, který je sám. Tak se mi to líbí, že si slovo vandrák nechávám vytetovat fixou na ruku. Večer u našeho karavanu spali lidé a oslovovali se vandráci. Ukázal jsem jim tetování a vyprávěl o měsíci ve dne. Začali se smát, tak jsem šel za strejdou a on mi dotetoval před slovo vandrák malej měsíc. Vytetoval si to samý a řekl, že odteď jsme úplně sami. Je mi dobře, když jsme sami. Jsme měsíční vandráci. Jezdíme spolu po zemi a umíme zapálit nebe. Thank you. Moon vagrants. Uncle says we were left alone, so we should conduct ourselves like solitary people. Uncle is my best friend. I nod and say that makes two of us for the solitude. People call us vagrants. Uncle says a vagrant is a person who's alone. I like that word so much I'm getting vagrant tattooed in marker on my arm. At night, some people slept near our caravan and called each other vagrants. I showed them my tattoo and told them about the moon at day. They started laughing, so I went over to my uncle and in front of the word vagrant, he tattooed a little moon for me. He tattooed the same on himself and said, "From now on, we are on our own." I like it when we are on our own. We are moon vagrants. We travel the earth together and know how to light the heavens. Thank you. Beatles. The Beatles. Beatles are Beatles. A guy shouting on the radio, uncle repeating words, singing in English like Beatles. Each agent has a laugh like Beatles. Yesterday, we camped near our town and they came by. They looked at us through their mobiles. One day, their selfie sticks will grow into their heads and they will become Beatles. Uncle calls me aging. I wave my arms and yell words in English, moving my arms and legs like Beatles. Beatles are agents. Maybe they were here already, looking at us through their mobiles, and I didn't recognize them. Cranes. Uncle builds castles with cranes, and the word mates means people. He calls them that when they come for him. I call him mate when he leaves. Okay, the second chapter is called Pyramid, so I've got a few poems from that. First one is called Signals. People turning lights on and off, sending signals in order to keep the day going between them. I'm lonely, blinking a flashlight from the window, then going to bed. I'm dreaming of people who are doing the same. Our messages pass in the streets, heading into the dark, and the moonlight wakes us. Thank you. Most beautiful world there is. Girls in short dresses run through the streets. We yell at them the first thing we can think of. We experience laughs through the bars. I'm in love with a girl I saw for a minute. Boys ask each other which one they like, and when two like the same one, they tussle. That's the most beautiful world there is. Fighting over love. Walls. This one is for you, Colin. At night, the older boys turned off the lights. They showed up in front of the little kids' beds and gagged them. In the morning, we found Adam in the toilet. He looked at me and took a breath as if he'd been holding it all night. What did they do to you? They took my clothes. I look at him. He stares into the wall. On the wall are messages scrawled in marker. I look at the hand where there was moon vagrant. I look at Adam, washed off a long time ago. Ciao. I say ciao and don't recognize him. You still working with cranes? They're not cranes, they're Ukrainians. I tell him about Adam. He gapes at the things around him. On the walls of the pyramid are messages nobody reads, and the visiting room is white. I count the minutes. It's tough to leave and to return again. Thanks for coming, Ankh. See you soon. Ciao. Imagine. Teacher looks like a fat John Lennon. He asks if we know Bibles. Everyone raises their hand. If he could stretch the strings out between us, he'd play Imagine. Fat John is my idol. I'm not gonna listen to Bibles. I'm gonna sit on that guitar and I'm not gonna raise my hand for him to notice me. There's so many of us that all you need is to break strings. Okay, and in the end, I will read like 3 more poems from the last chapter called Pick Me Ups. I still have time, right? Yes, okay. Holiday. Adam doesn't go to school but to work so he can go to school. He talks to men in cars and gets money. He's got enough already to go on holiday. Okay, this is my first time reading this one. Messages for aliens. I read somewhere our civilization is sending our voices up into the universe and awaiting what comes back down. On the streets we drive through silence, protests going on. If I laid among folks and whispered my name, no one noticed me. It disappeared and returned from the other side of the planet. If I dropped a pin, a new universe could arise from it, spewing everything far out and sending messages for aliens. Thank you. And the last one is called Nomads. Look over the hills. Below us, undulating meadows like the sea. Adam, I don't know where we are. Below, we walk the streets like packed chickens and beep at each other at the gates of paradise. Below, each of us is a child. We look over the hills, imagining that we stand over there, looking below. Our paths are maps. On the road, two drunken nomads sit enjoying something that is beyond us. Ask them how far it is to the sea. Thank you.
Shimon Lightgeb. Thank you, Shimon. So finally, we're going to hear from Ondřej Hrabal, Czech poet, the winner of the 2018 Czech National Poetry Slam Championship. Author of 3 poetry collections, 1 children's book, he performed his poetry at the largest demonstration in the Czech Republic after the Velvet Revolution, attended by 300,000 people. He is the frontman and lyricist of Bartleby, alternative rap. He organises Inverse, which we know, the festival in Ostrava. He studied creative writing at the University of East Anglia and philosophy at the University of the Basque Country. Ondřej Hrabal.
Thank you so much. Yeah, right. Hello again. I haven't done this before, but now I decided I will. I kind of like absurd situations, and I thought reading Czech poetry for children to English adults is perfect, because I had a book published. It's called Tapeworm. A tapeworm is looking for a flat, because the main poem is about a tapeworm who's a real estate agent selling people to other tapeworms. But I will not read this one. But at least you will get to hear how Czech poetry for children sounds as well. So which one do I read? About a salmon. I will change voices in the middle because it works like a comic, right? Losos obecný. Nejdu, kámo, nejsem blázen, tohle není žádnej bazén, dny tu plavu proti proudu s bandou stejně divnej joudů. Mega hardcore peřeje, voda z hor fakt nehřeje. Už jsem přeskočil 2 jezy, kdybych tušil, co v tom vězí, ležím doma, žhavím grill, jedu si svůj styl, oceán a chill. Vlastně ani nevím, jestli je tam nahoře o co stát, a to mi chceš říct, že mám jako vyšplhat vodopád? V klidu, bro, jsou to nervy, chápu, tady jenom podplav tu medvědí tlapu, vyhni se tý síti, ať z tebe zítra není nákup, když naraz přijde stín, uplav drápům ptáků a dej si bacha, ať neskončíš jak loni Jakub, když pádlem dostal ťavku od chlápka na kajaku. Už jen 1000 kiláků a budem tam siláku. Right, This hasn't been translated, so I can't read the translation, but now, like Shimon, I will also read 1 or 2 poems in Czech and then in English, so translated by David Vichnar. Ani trošku. Někteří lidi jsou trošku jako Vídeň. Vyhradit si čas na vypití kávy. Četla papírové noviny a jako by se nic nedělo. Někteří lidi jsou trošku jako Vídeň, to jsou mý nejoblíbenější. Něco pobublává v hrnci, nic se nemusí plnit, stačí díky. Některé lidi nejde mít ani trošku, nebo ztratit jenom spola. Not even a bit. Some people are a little bit like Vienna, setting time aside to drink coffee, reading the printed newspaper and like nothing was happening. Some people are a bit like Vienna. They're my favorite. Something bubbling in the pot. Nothing needs to be fulfilled. Thank you, it's enough. Some people you cannot have even a bit, or lose only halfway. Hladina. Nestojíme nad tím, musíme se nepřehlížet ve vaničce s betonem. Kdo by lovil ryby, když je muška? Nikdy jsem neviděl topícího se člověka, ale když si včera přišla z práce, chtělo se mi nad nás nakreslit hladinu. Water level. We're not standing above it. We must not overlook ourselves in a tub of concrete. Who would be fishing if they're a fly themselves? I've never seen a drowning man, but when you came home from work yesterday, I felt like drawing a water level above us. Maybe one more from the Czech ones. U soutoku řek. Pádla škrábala o dno. Bylo by snazší vystoupit, vést loď, taky už byli přesezení, praskliny v trupu. Podle mapy tam měli dávno být, rákosy rezignovaně usychali. Nebezpeční nepřátelé všichni mají hlavy na kůlech nebo už nejsou nebezpeční. Proletěl kolem ní Hracek, nic to neznamenalo, a i kdyby. U soutoku řek bývalo popraviště. Poznali to, protože když tudy proplouvali, měli už jen chuť odložit si hlavy do proudu. At the confluence of rivers, paddles scraping the bottom. It would have been easier to get out to carry the boat. They had also been sitting long enough. Cracks in the hull. According to the map, they should have long been there. Reeds drying resignedly. Dangerous enemies, all their heads on stakes, or they're no longer dangerous. A seagull flew past them. It meant nothing, and even if. At the confluence of rivers, there used to be an execution ground. They recognized it as when passing by, they just felt like taking their heads off, letting them float on the current. And now I will read from a manuscript that I actually wrote in English when I lived in Norwich. Then I didn't know what to do with it, so it just stayed in my laptop for a couple of years, and here we are. It's called Capital. The first part is called Fake It Till You Die. I still walk towards the coffee machine. One long coffee, standard taste. Passive activists recall being outraged by the calmness of comfort. One long coffee, extra strong taste. Overload taste buds with understatements. Oversell shortage to upsell redundancy. Endless streams, ultimate solutions, coins on eyelids, selling is believing. Tax Jupiter. It's a bit about Czech history. The Prime Minister suggested taxing the planets. All the goblins with their historical arguments discussed the bloody privileges of Jupiter. How Brits got rich from imperialism, and Americans got rich from slavery, and the Swiss got rich from all the genocides, and Germans got rich from way too much forgiveness, and how all the world's nations got rich from violence. The goblins, with their historical arguments, concluded that we should tax Jupiter instead of reparations that never really work. While the villains of our fairy tales conspicuously resemble goblins we aspire to be, rich and mean and entitled and proud and respected. We deserve, said the Prime Minister, radicalizing goblins who were no longer struggling, but who could never forget goblin history. And it was about time they became violent and subsequently rich and mean and entitled and proud and respected. It was about time to rape back what was lawfully theirs. The next one is called methamphetamine. You will need a word to remember the name of the poem for interpretation. Maybe some of you don't know, but the Czech Republic is unfortunately also one of the biggest producers of methamphetamine globally, per capita, of course. Methamphetamine. The old Austrian vineyard feels like work. Remember when we would drink more than we could possibly produce? Raindrops were knocking on grape skin like tattoo needles with transparent ink. I rather worried about them piecing your surface. How could I have thought it was mine to protect? The old Austrian vineyard feels like work, but also like all the beautiful moments with wine, the greatest smell of our ancient companion. All you need to justify alcoholism is a traditional dress and a song or two. Sing with me, let's dance and make laugh in the vineyard that is our homeland. The old Austrian Czech vineyard feels like work. We might have just crossed the border. Who knows? There's hardly any difference. Of course, if you look closely, you see that they have things that we don't. But we also have something they don't. The second part is called Love in the Metaverse. Strong. I suppose we could do a lot for love today. Look at all the freedom, all the romance propaganda. Somehow together in a night train. Von Zürich nach Budapest, z Zürichu do Budapesti, from Zurich to Budapest. Keep going, keep the rhythm. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Fighting on the night train, running to catch the morning one. In love with obstacles, and deluded by the scent of inspiration. We're not talking options, es muss sein. Cold. Not ready for winter. Melting icicle after one cold night, like slowly peeling skin of icebergs somewhere not so far. The hawk stares at the field of wounds. Water drops slide on her feathers. The question is whether she will turn into a pillar of salt to dissolve. They weren't ready for winter. They weren't ready to let go. Stuck on the branch of the black oak, freezing wind trying to blow them apart. Drop after drop like water torture, while they held tight with their stout claws that had ripped flesh open. All that was left was staring at the field. Inevitable. I thought we should at least hug. After all, we are in the same city. I would serve you for 7 years. I would learn to love your spouse. I thought we should at least go to the same city. Once again, create a meme out of every single moment we get to share. When ancient history has to be manufactured to explain nostalgia. Rootless as Sudetenland, an echo of injustice, internalized in every gesture. Roads paved with sets, like gravestones, like border stones. After all, we are in the same city, in the same strange city where nothing makes sense. We stand at a red light at 1 a.m. 3 sweatshirts on, you smell like nothing at an empty intersection. The last one, a bit longer. Still good? It's about like 25 minutes. It's from the last section, which is called Exhaust, and the poem is called Fabric. It was probably the god. When Jonas woke up, he realized that during the night he had turned into a factory. He knew it was unlikely, but one could hardly question all the chimneys and how time had slowed. One could hardly question all the lurking sales representatives around, always ready to offer a handshake, prospecting promising friends. Suddenly, the gates opened. A soldier in a testudo formation fell down. The morning shift was about to start. Workers began to clock in. All the women smiled when the gatekeeper told them that ignorant compliment again. They didn't want to have their handbags checked on the way home. When Jonas saw all these people, he knew he couldn't just turn human again, take their jobs away. They had families, and in 2 or 3 cases, whole families were about to clock in. Jonas thought about writing a letter to his father. The factory was doing well. The production was up by 20%. He thought his father might be proud of him. Naturally, it can be assumed that most fathers don't really want their sons to turn into factories. But maybe it doesn't matter who you are, Jonas thought, as long as you're good at it. Jonas watched all the managers getting out of their cars, casually greeting everyone because this was a family, not a factory, they said. It's not too bad, Jonas thought. I could have turned into something worse. Jonas created lemonades and ketchups and other mana substitutes. It was probably the god who turned him into a factory. There were other liable explanations at hand. Maybe the humankind needed such a significant mutation to boost productivity even more. Jonas was definitely kind of a god now himself. The workers always had to line up for the morning meeting. They all got assigned bad jobs. Only one was lucky. All he or she had to do was to check that the bottles had crown caps. Everyone knew that there was a simple device to check that anyway, but believing that they might get this assignment kept them hopeful during the morning routine. Jonas felt sorry for all the workers but one, the one with the fake assignment. 4 hours sound like an enormous astronomical clock, like an orchestra of metronomes, until the lunchtime. An unpaid half an hour to eat a couple of bread rolls. Another 4 hours sound like an enormous astronomical clock, like an orchestra of metronomes, until... It was probably the God who turned him into a factory, probably the Old Testament version of him. One evening, when all of his favorite workers clocked out, he thought that he would never do this to any of his workers. He would never turn any of them into a factory. Thanks a lot.
Ondrej Harabal. Thank you so much to all 3 poets. We've now got a chance, before we finish, just to ask some questions if we wish to. We've got 2 captive Czech poets here and a Scottish one. What more do you want on a Friday night? So, while you're thinking of a question to ask, I just want to open question to all 3 of you. I love Czech literature. I think it's fantastic writers from Czechoslovakia, from the Czech Republic, and I just wondered if you had any favourite writers from the past you could recommend to people here who they may not know. And I think it's interesting, your last one about the factory reminded me of the famous, Metamorphosis. I don't know whether that was a conscious, was it Gregor woke up one morning and found himself transformed into a giant insect? Was that a deliberate thing?
Yeah, of course. But maybe you guys can start. I need to catch your breath now,
Okay, you catch your breath.
So, what Czech writers do?
Go on then.
Well, there's, I don't know if anyone knows, Jaroslav Hašek, The Good Shoulder Žvejk, which is great. And, of course, then there was, Pablo Neruda, the Chilean poet, that he took his name from Jan Neruda, the Czech short story writer. And I've got a collection of Jan Neruda's short stories. They're okay. But it's a good connection, it turned me on to that. And Harabal himself.
As in Bohumil?
Bohumil, yes.
Bohumil Harabal.
Yeah. Closely Observed Trains. Have you seen the film? Read the book? Wonderful. And also Hašek, who's read The Good Soldier's Fake? A few people here. There's going to be a new translation apparently later on this year, which is going to revive interest in that wonderful book. Nice. Thanks very much, Colin. Yeah. Shimon.
Also, I like Bianca Belova. Maybe you know her. Her book was translated to multiple languages. Her most famous one is called The Lake. She got multiple awards, European awards. Also, I like Bohumil Hrabal, of course, or Petr Šabach. Petr Šabach wrote so many books which were used as a base for movies. Pelíšky, Pupendo, Občanský průkaz, these are like legendary Czech movies. And I also had the first reading in my life with him when I was 13. Bianca, by the way, translated she made my first English translations when I started in England, 2018. Or Jaroslav Rudiš. Jaroslav Rudiš is right now one of the most translated Czech authors too, and I like that civil point of view he uses, same as Petr Šabach. And also from Czech poets, I love Jan Těsnohlídek, mine and Ondřej's publisher, or Karel Škrabal, and so many others. So I will give some space for Ondřej now.
Yeah, maybe rather than just like shooting random names at you guys, look, I think at a certain point Czech literature was quite interesting for the people from the West because they felt like it allowed them to have a sneak peek, like behind the Iron Curtain. And then I feel like actually it lost traction a bit, right? So even when I studied at the UEA, everyone was able to say, I don't know, Hrabal, Kundera, Hašek, Karel Čapek maybe, etc. But I do think that the Czech literature has a lot to offer still. There are a lot of names that I could, just tell you. Kateřina Tučková wrote some great books that we talked about today. My friend Jan Němec, a lot more, especially in prose, but also the contemporary Czech poetry is very much alive. There's a great scene, lots of different approaches. So maybe what I would recommend is, if you are interested, you can take a look, for example, at one place that can, somehow target you, which is a prize, Magnesia Litera. It's a yearly award, and then you will see what are always the most important prose book and the most important book of poetry of the year in the Czech Republic, and then usually the next year, latest, they are translated into English as well.
Great, thank you very much, all three of you. Now, any questions from the floor or from the pews about? Anybody got one? Sorry, I can't see. Oh, beg your pardon, Lydia. Sorry, go.
Yeah, this is for Ondřej. You have this amazing ability to write in two different languages. Now, does a poem suggest itself to you either in English or in Czech? I mean, does it come to you in an English form, or do you kind of go through a translation process?
Thank you. So at the time when I wrote this Capital, as I said, I studied at the UEA in Norwich. Then I worked for English first company, and I dated a Swiss girl. Then we lived in Vienna. We spoke English with all of our friends. So at this period of my life, I was barely in touch with Czech language. So we also watched movies in English together or TV shows, and I studied English philology. So I read books in English. So at that time, it felt very natural for me to write in English, and then I just wrote it because it was even surprising to me that writing in Czech felt forced, right? But since that, I moved back to the Czech Republic, and now I write only in Czech again. So I would say it's natural. I didn't translate it in my head, but it just happened at a certain period of my life, and let's see. Now I have it. Now at least it's not only in my laptop, but also we printed it out for this tour together, and. Yeah, but it was interesting. It was an interesting process because I feel like writing in a different language leads you to creatively to places where you might surprise yourself. And first of all, I mean, in the beginning, I thought I shouldn't even dare to write in English, right? Because poetry is something very sensitive. You have to know exactly which words to choose, know all the collocations, etc. This was my approach. And then I realized some of the most interesting contemporary poetry in Czech is written by immigrants as well, right? By Ukrainians, etc. And precisely because they work with the language a bit differently. So it might be odd at times, but it is different and it might be interesting. Actually, when I sent this to Kathy, one of my classmates from UEA, asked her for her opinion. She just told me, it's very odd, I love it.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else? Helen's got one. Excuse me. Sorry if it trails over people's heads. Careful hairdos.
Thank you, and thank you to all the poets for reading. My question's for Shimon. I was picking up themes of isolation and communication or miscommunication and repeated characters in your poems. Are those, I suppose, things that particularly interest you, and can you say why they're interesting?
Well, I was. Thank you for the question. I was always inspired by stories around me, and I always try to listen, and I always considered people interesting in general, and not just about it wasn't just about how they dressed, but mainly about things inside them, what they feel and they think. So all of my poems in general are about these micro stories. My first book about people from my village in mountains, and then I was like, I will write something longer. I want to write a book about one character. So I chose this guy who's living alone with his uncle, and then in orphanage, and then he comes back to his uncle, and I just concentrated on his story and the story of his friend, who's actually not his friend, but I don't want to give you spoilers. So I don't know if I answered to your question. Did I? Yeah. Okay.
Hello, this is for Shimon as well. It's a much smaller, narrower question about the actual translation. So there's a nice little play on words in one of your poems. They're not cranes, but Ukrainians. Lovely line, especially in the context of the poem. But in Czech, does that play on words also work, or is it completely different?
Yes, it works. It's a very good translation, because in Czech, instead of cranes, they're krajíci, and we say Ukrajinci, Ukrainians in Czech, so krajíci, Ukrajinci.
Perfect.
So yes, it is a really good.
Did you find problems with translation all through, like getting that just right?
Well, I really appreciate Bob who translated that, because I would never translate it so well. And so I think it's good. And yeah.
Any more? Yes.
Maybe not a question, but a great thank you for this evening of discovery of what English, Czechs, and Scots, of course, have in common. And for you guys, for Shimon and Andre, thank you very much for the export. Apart from beer and Skoda cars and Royal Mail, for which I apologize, of course, it's great. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
David, do you want to say just something briefly about the Czech consulate?
Well, the Consulate of the Czech Republic in Manchester is a place, apart from getting apart from getting your passport, we try to support culture as much as we can. And poetry has become a bit of a staple in the recent months, and I'm really grateful that we could be part of this, together with Czech Literary Center, who supported this, and you guys reaching out to us and letting us know. And thank you to Peter for being a wonderful host. This is a real pleasure for me as a Consul General. Days tend to be rather tedious. And this is a real pleasure. Spending a Friday evening in Leeds in your wonderful company makes me cherish my work, which can be from time to time rather challenging. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
We could come. We have things on most Friday nights, actually, David. They may not be in Czech, but you could still come. Anybody else before we oh, thank you, Guy. Thank you very much. Anybody else? In that case, I think we'll close. But it's been a really lovely evening. Colin, Shimon, Andre, thank you so much for coming to Leeds. Really hope that this is just the beginning of something, not just with the Czech Republic and with Brno, but also maybe with you, Colin, and if we can forge some links to Edinburgh. So another big thank you for our wonderful guests here. Thank you for coming. That's the end of this evening.
Thank you.
Very nice.